Welcome into our signing day roundtable, Bucknutters. I am Dave Biddle, joined by Bill Kurelic and Duane Long. And good news, gentlemen, late Tuesday night, finally, Jamarco Jones didn't make it official, but threw it out there on Twitter, threw the OH out there. And then Mark Pantoni, he put his famous boom out there on Twitter, kind of confirming that Jamarco Jones was a Buckeye. Bill, we'll go to you first. Very topsy-turvy. He took an official visit to Michigan State. A lot of people thought he might flip to Michigan State, but Jamarco Jones is a Buckeye. Your reaction and just your thoughts on the way this recruitment went?
Well, I would have to say that this might be one of the craziest 24 to 48 hours before National Signing Day that I've experienced. The Jamarco Jones situation, including just tweeting the OH for quite some time, and everybody waiting for the IO. And then you've got Malik McDowell, who, he wants to go one place, and his parents are adamantly against it, and that whole situation going on in the newspapers, it's been crazy. But, I guess you can say all's well that ends well.
Duane, your reaction. You and I talked a little bit off the air about this. I kind of know your reaction. But, I mean, the Buckeyes had 5 offensive linemen in this class, including Jamarco. But let's be real. There was one stud. There was one true offensive tackle. I mean, I think Brady Taylor's a true offensive tackle, but there was one stud, and this was the one. I mean, they could not have lost Jamarco Jones and really looked at themselves in the mirror and say we had a great offensive line haul. They really, really, really avoided danger by landing Jamarco Jones here, Duane.
Well, when you look at the class, you really look at tape. Excuse me. You look at other opinions about this kid. It just confirms what I'm thinking. This is the cornerstone. This is the kid that you stick over there at left tackle and say, show me that you can play out there, and you already got it in your head that he's probably going to make it. He was the showcase. It completely changes the class. It goes from, with him not in it, if you're honest about your appraisal of this offensive line class, it goes from an A to a C+ at best. If you want to say a B-. It really changes the complexion of the class. When the next best guy in the class is a guard, you don't want that. It's really not a great class at that point. Picked up some good guys. I really like Knox. I love Brady Taylor. But the one guy that really put the class over the top and made it, we got some players. We refilled the ranks. It was Jamarco Jones, and I really didn't. The way things have broke recently, Bill is always conservative with his pronouncements, and just is not going to go out there and say something crazy. And Bill wouldn't come out and say, I think he's going to be a Buckeye, and that was just wearing on me. I said, and I kept coming back to the board saying, when Bill says he's a Buckeye, I can relax. Until Bill says he's a Buckeye, I'm not going to relax. But, this was huge as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and I know Kyle Trout's another guy in this class that's going to be a true offensive tackle. There's no doubt about it. I don't want to disparage him because I'm very high on Kyle Trout. I think he'll probably redshirt and be one of those Wisconsin-type offensive linemen. He's going to be a 5-year player. He's going to be a Hulk by the time he graduates Ohio State. But Jamarco Jones, there's just no doubt about it. He is the stud of this class. I think everybody would agree with that as far as the offensive lineman. And Bill, before we move on to Malik McDowell and talk about that situation, that soap opera, I mean, does this surprise you in the end that Jamarco Jones is a Buckeye? Everything that has happened over the last 24 to 48 hours, are you surprised as we sit here right now?
Well, with everything that's happened in the last 24 to 48 hours, I'm not sure I could be surprised anymore. Like I said, I've been doing this 25-plus years, and I'm not sure. Well, I'm not sure I've seen some crazier things than have happened in the last 24 hours. There was a young man many years ago that from up in the Toledo area that invited all of the Ohio media to his press conference, and then promptly picked Michigan State, and that really created quite a stir. That was crazy, but
who was that, Bill? Who was that? Bill, who was that?
Let's not. I won't have that name out there right now, but it's been crazy. It really has, and I think if you're an Ohio State fan, it's crazy good. And the bottom line is Buckeye Nation's got to be thrilled right now. So, Malik McDowell to go yet, and we'll see what happens.
One more thing about offensive linemen, then we'll move on to Malik McDowell. Marcellus Jones, how do we feel about him, gentlemen? I think is he a project? Am I off base there? We'll go to Duane first, then Bill. Am I off base saying Marcellus Jones is a project, Duane?
I don't think you are off base with that. I think the first thing we have to do is this kid's got to mature a lot. And you talk about project. Well, in that respect, he is mentally. This kid's got to understand what he's got to do to be an elite player. For one thing, I'd like to see his weight down. And that's a mental thing more than it is a physical thing. It starts there with the mental aspect. But the kid can play. He's probably going to be a guard. You look at the Glenville used him. I don't know how much offense he played this year. I saw 2 games. I didn't see him take a snap on offense. So he's got to learn some technique. But down the road, he could be. I want to see a kid that's more focused. I want to see a kid that's in the 320, 325 range. And that will show me a lot that he's ready to play football at that point. I would say project. I would agree with you.
Bill, your thoughts on Marcellus Jones? Project, is that going too far?
Well, 2 things for me, and one of them Duane mentioned. Number one, it's got to keep his weight down. I don't think Ed Warner is going to go with any lineman that is overweight. I think that's really important, the way Ohio State plays, the way Ed Warner coaches. I totally agree with Duane that he's got to keep his weight down. That's number one. And then the second thing to me is that he's got to, learn to play every play. At Ohio State, for Ed Warner and for Urban Meyer and his coaching staff, you're going to have to play every single play. They say, I believe their slogan is 4 to 6 or 4 to 7 seconds, and you got to do that. And if he does those things, I think he's got a chance to be a very good player for the Buckeyes. But those are the 2 keys for me. He's got to keep his weight down, and he's got to play every play all out. And if he does, then Ohio State's got a good offensive lineman.
Gentlemen, Malik McDowell, as we switch gears here, just when we thought we might have a signing day, as we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, we thinking, man, we might have a signing day without a lot of drama. We knew there'd be some drama, but we thought this might be one of the less drama-filled signing days. Oh, no. First of all, we had Jamarco Jones last night, and then Malik McDowell. Bill, I read something that just speaks volumes to me. You said in all of your years covering recruiting, which I believe goes back to the FDR administration, you have never seen anything like this as far as Malik McDowell. His parents to say they're heavily involved is a vast understatement. He wants to go to Michigan State. He will make his announcement later today between Ohio State, Michigan, and Florida State. Bill, tell our listeners why this is the strangest thing you've ever seen in recruiting, which is saying a lot, and give us a prediction here.
Well, first of all, Dave, you are underestimating my experience. Actually, when I started, I was doing this on a tablet, a stone tablet with a chisel. So, let's make sure we go back as far as we need to go back here, gentlemen.
Let's get it right, Dave. Come on.
Yeah. I was walking around. Well, what it's like. So anyway, as far as McDowell, the reason I say it's been so bizarre is that, I've certainly seen times where the parents and the player disagree and all that, but maybe not so adamantly as Malik's parents, and even to the point of being so adamant about that in the press. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that I can't ever remember experiencing that. And with social media the way it is today, again, when I started, I was doing it with a chisel and a stone tablet, but with the social media the way it is today, so much is out there so much more readily. And, the newspaper articles, the radio, TV, everything that the mom and dad have been so much against Malik going to Michigan State or staying in Michigan. It's really been kind of bizarre how that's gone back and forth. And, I spoke with Malik's coach on Tuesday night, and he mentioned again that there's been, as he put it, something along the lines of a lot of interaction on Tuesday night between Malik and Malik's parents. So, I can tell you as of even Tuesday night, they were still going back and forth. We'll see what happens. But, my gut feeling has been all along that one of the parents will, I guess you'd say, relent and go ahead and sign his national letter of intent to go to Michigan State. And as of right this minute, I still tend to feel one of them will. But again, don't rule out the possibility that Malik will not make a decision at 10 o'clock this morning. That's not out of the question. As of right now, it's still on, but we'll see.
Duane, one of the interesting things, many interesting things about the Malik McDowell recruitment is his mom, just bantering with fans on message boards, on Facebook, because ESPN now, instead of having a regular comment section, they just have a Facebook plug-in. So it's basically like a hybrid with Facebook and ESPN comments, and she's on there just going battle royale with some of these Michigan State fans. I mean, this is good theater, Duane. I love this stuff. She's sticking up for her son. I heard her on a Detroit radio station today. She's kind of funny. I mean, she's definitely overbearing, and I can understand the fans that think maybe she's too much trouble than it's worth, but I watched Malik McDowell's tape. I had somebody ask me this on Twitter, is he really worth it? I tell you what, here's my answer. If he's good enough for Ohio State's coaches, Duane, he's good enough for me. Your thoughts on the whole ordeal of the Malik McDowell recruitment?
Well, I got to go with bizarre too. I look at the mom, and it's on like Donkey Kong with her. She is taking on the world, and I don't know what she's thinking, why she's doing this, but she's going at people, and it's just bizarre. You have to watch it. It is theater at its finest. Now, as far as what Malik's doing, I think she's poisoned the water so badly with Michigan State. I need to see a 17, 18, I don't know how old he is, he's right around there. I need to see a kid that age absolutely just go against parents' wishes. And he hasn't visited Michigan officially. I know this thing. Well, he's been there so many times. So what? How many guys commit to a school that they never visited? Even Marcus Ball, who committed to Ohio State before he ever visited, he still visited. I just don't think Michigan's in this. And Michigan State, he's going to have to completely defy a very strong-willed woman to go to Michigan State. It just doesn't make sense that that's what this kid's going to do. You were saying something about his film. I wasn't impressed with him in his sophomore and junior film. I saw a guy who could not get off blocks. I saw a guy who made plays late in the play rather than, those beating a guy at the line of scrimmage and making a big play.
Took plays off.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed.
Yep.
And I wasn't even watching him. I thought he was going to Michigan, and then I thought maybe Michigan State. And then I looked at his senior film just last, I think it was Thursday, I saw it for the first time, and I went, oh, my goodness, what a unique athlete. 6'7", 290, looks like he's 250 or 260, and he runs like a receiver. You have to take this kid. Is his mom going to be a headache? Well, she might be, but you have to take the chance. There's no perfect recruit. There's no guy out there that has the perfect situation. He's the perfect specimen, perfect player on film, has a perfect background. There's going to have to be some. You just got to deal with it if you can. He's just so good. You can't say no to this kid. And right now, I'm telling you, I'm not going to be surprised that he picks Ohio State. Earlier today, before Jamarco Jones reconfirmed that he's coming to Ohio State, I thought we had a better shot at McDowell. I just don't know how this kid can end up at Michigan State now, and he didn't visit Michigan. So I'm saying that if he doesn't come to Ohio State, I think it's going to be Florida State. I just don't see how he can go to Michigan State now.
This class as a whole, it's excellent. Another number 2 recruiting class in the country for Urban Meyer. Stacking these number 2 recruiting classes back to back, that's going to pay dividends immediately, and especially in the future. You start stacking quality recruiting classes like this back to back. And, we talked a lot about the offensive line. They needed to land a great offensive line class, and they did that. They needed to land a good linebacking class, and they did that, headlined by Raekwon McMillan. They have some speed in the class, a lot of speed, guys like Curtis Samuel and Johnny Dixon on offense. I love the defensive backs in this class. Eric Smith, you can't really call him underrated anymore. He got such a bump, but for a while he was so underrated. Guys like Damon Webb and Marshawn Lattimore, I just love the DBs in this class. Bill, we'll go to you. It's almost like an NFL term, but the Buckeyes filled needs, and they didn't just fill needs. They filled needs and overflowed some needs. Your thoughts overall on this class, this 2014 recruiting class for Ohio State?
Well, I've done a whole bunch of radio and TV shows in the last week, and the thing I consistently get back to that I love about this class is that not the rankings or not necessarily individual players, but the fact that the three areas that I felt like they needed to most address, they hit at least a home run in all three areas, if not a grand slam. You know, you look at the linebackers, a huge need for the Buckeyes, and they got four what I think are great ones. You know, Raekwon McMillan, Dante Booker, Kyle Berger, and Sam Hubbard. I think that's a grand slam. Secondary, anybody that watched Ohio State this year knows they've got to get help there. They've got two of the country's top corners, Marshawn Lattimore and Damon Webb, just impact guys. Safeties, Eric Smith, who I think is going to be really good, and Malik Hooker, who I think is underrated. You know, again, home run at least there. And then finally, the offensive line. You graduate 4 seniors, and you need not only depth, but you need some impact guys. And they missed out on some guys they wanted. But overall, keeping Jamarco Jones in this class, they've got a group of outstanding prospects there. So, you know, when you put it all together and you look at their needs and you look at where they did best, they hit it right on the nose.
Duane, filled needs, a ton of talent, some under-the-radar guys like Terry McLaurin, and I think Stephen Collier's an under-the-radar guy, Sam Hubbard. I mean, just, Duane, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this class as a whole.
Well, I had the same needs that Bill had there. Linebacker, safety, and offensive line. I'm going to disagree about safety. I thought we only got one guy. I saw Hooker. Where he impressed me at all the way around was a wide receiver. Now, that's actually a good thing because I think we could use a big split end. We've got a couple of candidates, but I think Hooker really impressed me, going up, making plays on the ball in the air, a big, strong kid, and that's what you need in a split end. You need a guy that can go out one-on-one and it's a mismatch. From the time the ball is snapped, he's out there on a cornerback's 5'10", 180 pounds, 190 pounds, and this big kid's out there, and he's going to take him on, he's going to beat him in the air. Or he's just going to outfight him over the ball. Safety, I love Eric Smith. I think Eric Smith's underrated. Hooker, I agree with Bill, he's underrated. I just think as a split end. Linebacker, I don't know how you could call it anything but a grand slam when you look at Raekwon McMillan and Dante Booker. Booker, to me, if you asked me to pick between them, I would take Dante Booker simply because I think he's a more versatile guy. I think he's sure to stay a linebacker. If I was sure McMillan was going to be definitely a linebacker, and he will get a shot at middle linebacker here at Ohio State, absolutely he will. But I just think he's going to be one of those kids who could grow into a defensive end, whereas Booker, I think he's more likely to stay a linebacker. Offensive line, I would have liked to have seen one more big-time guy. Getting Jamarco Jones, I like Brady Taylor a lot. You got Knox, who's the best guard in the country. He showed that over the summer. On film, he dominates. And then he got into the camps and just beat up on some of the best defensive linemen in the country. You know, you got those two that I think stand above, and I would throw Taylor in there. I'm a real big Taylor fan. So I would say grand slam at linebacker, at least two guys on when you hit the home run at the offensive line, and I'm just not convinced that one safety is enough. We just had poor safety play, lost 3 guys too. That's another thing to keep in mind, and why none of the younger guys could push into the lineup, that bothers me. Tanner was available all the time. He got a little bit of playing time early and then disappeared. So I think we needed to get at least one more elite safety. It was a great safety class nationally, and we didn't really get guys that I think we could have got one more guy. That was very important as far as I was concerned.
Great stuff, gentlemen. Thank you very much to Bill Kurelic and Duane Long. And keep it locked to Bucknuts today for the Malik McDowell announcement, the last domino to fall in Ohio State's 2014 recruiting class. At least you hope so if you're a Buckeye fan. What will Malik McDowell do? We'll find out later today. We will also interview Urban Meyer, Chris Ash, and Larry Johnson at 3 o'clock at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. We'll have full coverage of that. So make sure you keep it locked to Bucknuts. We're also going to have another podcast later tonight, hosted by Dan Rubin. We're going to bring in Steve Wiltfong for that, recapping all the day's events. So keep it locked to Bucknuts. Thanks again to Bill Kurelic and Duane Long, and thank you for joining us here on our Roundtable podcast.